There you go. So now you know all officially that you're being recorded. Thank you. And we're going to reshare. And if you have questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat and we will get to those as well. So feel free to put them in at any time. We'll go through them at some point in the presentation as well. So we offer three basic sets of advanced courses at North Shore High School: the Advanced Placement Program, the International Baccalaureate Program, and courses in our dual enrollment catalog. And regardless of which course or type of course we're talking about, it's important to note that we try to align all of our courses to our shared valued outcomes and what we're now calling the profile of a North Shore learner, which includes the shared valued outcomes and other values, skills, and dispositions that are in line with our values, but also the new New York State Blue Ribbon Commission diploma requirements. And we're building a crosswalk as we speak. You can see the IB learner profile has skills and dispositions that align with very closely with the North Shore learner profile or shared valued outcomes. But also in the work that our teachers do every day, regardless of the course we're talking about, there is alignment. There's intentionality that builds those skills, those dispositions, those values into the coursework. We talk about the paradigm between the transactional value of these courses and the transformational value. Obviously, more and more as college admissions becomes more competitive, we talk about the transactional value, what Mr. Contreras will call the stamps on the passport, the cachet that your high school profile has. And so that is definitely the transactional piece. So we know that's a concern. Which courses are going to be most advantageous for your children, our students, given the college that they're interested in going to, the career path that they have. But we also don't want to lose sight of the transformational piece, which is why we're all here, why educators are in the work. We want to also grow and help move our students towards those North Shore learner profile characteristics, make them better problem solvers, communicators, committed to others and themselves, and to be able to transfer those skills to the world outside of North Shore and the world beyond to build a better world. Aspirational, yes, but definitely something we strive for. So we're balancing both forces. Thinking of the benefits of advanced coursework specifically from a transactional viewpoint, it's an opportunity to earn credits. It's cost effective. It might actually help your children save money on credits when they are in college, and the transcript benefits. But on a transformational level, it's exposing them to academic rigor. They are getting a deeper study of a subject area, more focused. They are changing, evolving. They're going through a metamorphosis often when they go through these courses that prepares them for life beyond North Shore, for college coursework, but then also exposes them to things like research skills and other knowledge that they might not otherwise obtain in non-advanced courses. And so here I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Shea, who's going to talk to us about the IB program to start.
Thank you, Dr. Zubonis. I appreciate all of you showing up this evening. I look forward to any questions you may have at the end. We're going to start with IB, International Baccalaureate, this evening, because while all IB, AP, and dual enrollment courses are college-level courses, IB has some layers or complexities to it that don't exist with AP or dual enrollment. IB stands for International Baccalaureate, and the International Baccalaureate was born in Switzerland as a way to provide high school students with college-level courses. It grew throughout Europe, and it has since spread throughout the world. And about 3% of United States high schools have or offer an IB program. International Baccalaureate is an upperclassman program. It is designed to be for the last 2 years of schooling, 11th and 12th grade, as you approach your college search and college years. There is a global network of schools that we can tap into for resources, and all of the curriculum has a global aspect to it. So when you cover courses, you're going to cover them from the lens of people from different cultures and different countries. There are 6 core subject areas or groups from which these classes are derived. And we're going to see that in just a moment. You're going to see each of those courses. one of the big differences between IB and the others is that IB, you can take courses a la carte. You can take an IB course in 1 subject, 2 subjects, 3 subjects, whatever you wish during your time here. Or you can kind of collect them all. Were your kids into Pokemon growing up? You got to get them all. You can collect them all, and that's going to be called the IB diploma. And that IB diploma is recognized again throughout the world. That diploma requires specific courses to be taken. You have to take a course from all 6 of the subject groups, and it requires a 3-part core. And that 3-part core is a philosophy class for the second half of 11th grade, first half of 12th grade, called Theory of Knowledge. It is a 1.5-year research project called the Extended Essay, and Ms. Rice will talk on that shortly. And then there's a 2-year creativity, activity, service commitment that you make, and you kind of journal your activities, journal your community service, create a project, almost if you had any kids in Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and they had to do that final Eagle Scout project, it's kind of similar to that. So you can take courses a la carte, you can take them and try to complete the full diploma. Dr. Zubler, yeah, thank you. Okay. Thanks for reading my mind. So here are the 6 different categories in which IB courses exist, right? So if you look at Group 1 is Studies in Language and Literature. So that's going to be a language and literature course in 11th grade. It's designed to be a 2-year course. There's an exam at the end of the 2nd year, and a score on that exam, a strong score on that exam, could earn you college credits at some colleges. We are offering a new course next year called Literature and Performance. It is a 1-year course. And you'll see an abbreviation called HL or SL after the course titles. IB defines HL as a higher level course, a little bit more complex in nature, a little bit deeper in structure. And then you have this SL or standard level courses. Some standard level courses can be 1 year in length. Some are 2 years. All HL courses are 2 years in length. So you have your language and literature Group 1. In Group 2, you have language acquisition. So this is courses from our world language program, and they're available in French, Italian, Latin, Mandarin, and Spanish. And if you wanted to, you could start out brand new in French in a course called Ab Initio. So plenty of options there. And you'll see that each of those gives you, well, not each of those, but many of those give you an SL or an HL option. In the case of language acquisition, every one of those courses is 2 years in length to satisfy the IB diploma requirement. Standard level versus higher level, you're actually taught in the same classroom, but your assignments could be different and in greater detail if you chose HL. And it's a different exam at the end of the 2 years, with the HL exam being more rigorous than the SL exam. Group 3 is individuals and societies, and we would call it social studies here. You have a history, HL, 2-year course that would be required for the diploma. The first year in 11th grade is IB History of the Americas. And that course covers North America, Central America, South America, the whole hemisphere, as opposed to the Regents level course, which we would focus primarily on US history. There are a couple of electives within individuals and societies. One is business management, an overview of many of the business concepts from accounting to entrepreneurship to management to account to marketing, if I didn't say them all. And then there's a social and cultural anthropology course, and this is a 1-year course as well. And that is going to look at both past and present cultures and look at how those cultures have chosen certain religions or certain customs or certain traditions and how they've interacted with other cultures over time. Group 4 is the sciences. And you'll see there is 1 2-year science, biology, and 2 1-year sciences, computer science and environmental systems. You're going to have teachers address some of those in a moment. Group 5, you'll see there are 2 options for 1-year math classes: mathematics applications and mathematics analysis. Analysis is more complex. And you're going to have Ms. DeLuca speak to you a little bit about those 2 courses in a moment. And then Group 6 is the arts. And the arts here at North Shore, we have a film class, also brand new, a 1-year film class, SL. You could take that. If you're pursuing the full diploma, You could take film as your group 6, but you could also take a second course from group 1, 2, 3, or 4 to fulfill your group 6 commitment. You'll see that diploma candidates must take a minimum of 3 courses at the HL level, but they could take 4. And they must take at least 2 SL, but they could take 3 SL courses. All 6 of the courses that you take for the diploma will culminate in an exam at the end of the final year of that course. And again, that course, that exam could qualify you for credit at the college or university. In order to get the full diploma, you have to, every test is graded on a 1 to 7 scale. You would need to earn at least 22 points out of a possible 42. And you'll see some stipulations. You can't have more than 1 course with a score of 1, can't have more than 2 courses with a score of 2, can't have more than 3 courses with a score of 3. And then there are points for the philosophy course, in which you have a final assessment that gets evaluated by IB, and the extended essay, which also gets evaluated by IB. 2 points for the theory of knowledge, 1 point for extended essay. Overall, you need 45 points to qualify for the diploma, and you must complete that creativity, activity, service commitment as well.
We had one question, Mr. Shea. We could just pause
Sure.
30 seconds and we'll take these when we can. But question was how many students on average in a given year complete the IB diploma? And it really does range.
It does range. So 3 years ago, 8 students pursued the full diploma through completion. This year, 4 students are attempting for the full diploma. And in the 11th grade class upcoming, there are 3. We have had years where 15 or 20 or 22 people have attempted it. I will say that most of the students who attempt and commit to it do get the points that they need to on those exams, do get the points for theory of knowledge and extended essay, and do qualify for that IB diploma. Please note that the diploma and the scores for those exams won't come back to you until July after graduation. So you won't actually know if you've earned that diploma until July after you graduate. You will get a certificate from IB, and IB will send all of your test scores to the college of your choice.
One thing I'll just add is that, Dr. Smythe, Mr. Shea, Mr. Contreras, and Mr. Doherty and I have been looking at, why that is, if some of the numbers have gone down. And so some of what you're seeing here are some slight changes to make it perhaps a little easier to get the diploma, a little more manageable, certainly scheduling in the 11th and 12th grade years, and the fact that you can only take these courses in IB in those years does make it a little more challenging. So those are things we're looking at. But we have, in terms of the IB courses, hundreds and hundreds of students taking the courses each year, but might not just be getting the full diploma.
So again, there are 3 components to the core of the diploma. You do not have to take these. In fact, you won't be in creativity, action, and service or the extended essay unless you are a full diploma candidate. You can, however, take the theory of knowledge course if you wish as an elective, and you just want to have that philosophy experience in the second half of 11th and first half of 12th grade. I'm going to hand it over to Carolyn Chimeri to discuss the creativity, activity, service component. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. So, as with theory of knowledge, CAS is a central component of the IB diploma program. CAS is an abbreviation, so it's the 3 core facets: creativity, activity, and service. Creativity means exploring an interpretive product or performance. Activity, physical exertion, or contributing to a healthy lifestyle. And service is about authentic engagement with the community. CAS is really designed for students to engage with the IB learner profile, but in practical ways. I tell students that CAS shouldn't be a stressor, right? Like this extra course that you feel obligated to do, but it's more of an opportunity for growth for students that are doing things that they already love to do. There are 2 major components of CAS. which are completed over an 18-month period. There's the CAS experience and then the CAS project. So the CAS experience fit within one or more facets of CAS, that creativity, activity, or service. It can be a single event or it can be an extended series of events. So, for example, I have students that are trying weightlifting for the first time, and that's their CAS experience, and are reflecting on that through their manage back, their experiences with that, or it could be a piece of art, let's say, for example, that they're working on. Where a CAS project is a little bit longer, right, in duration. It must be collaborative, should be about 1 month in that duration, and consists of at least two facets of CAS, that creativity, activity, and service. And the difference between a CAS project and a CAS experience is it really should be something that's new and deeper of an activity and experience than a single CAS experience. So, what they have in common, the CAS experience and the CAS project, is this iterative framework called the CAS stages. And really, this allows students to investigate and explore challenges, communicate and collaborate with others, and then, most importantly, increase self-awareness and recognize personal development is really the goal of the program.
Thank you, Carolyn. Let's turn the microphone over to Donna Rice, who is the Extended Essay Coordinator at North Shore. Welcome, Donna.
Hi. So the extended essay is a culminating research paper. However, it grows out of a lot of mini research papers that are done in class. So whether or not you're a diploma candidate or just enrolled in IB courses, you are going to get a heaping helping of college level research. And this is the culminating independent experience that grows out of that. So I think I have another slide actually. Yes. So IB's approach to research is very subject specific, and the internal assessments are research papers 90% of the time. So students begin those research papers in junior year, and they get a taste of research in the sciences, research in math. Business has a really extensive research paper for their assessment, anthropology, history as well. And then they get a taste of discipline-specific research projects. And when it comes time for the extended essay, they can choose which discipline they want to undertake that 4,000-word essay in. I really like how IB scaffolds this experience. The internal essays are between 1,500 and 1,800 words. And the teachers spend about 20 hours of class time guiding students through those essays. And the extended essay is 4,000 words. And it's estimated students will devote about 40 hours of work. So it is a really nice stepping stone for them to apply their learning. These extended essays and the internal assessments are discipline specific. They almost seem like majors tasks. You get a little taste of what it's like to be a business major. You're using SWOT analyses, you're using ANSAF matrix, you're looking at all the specific business tools. Same for history, you're using the terminology. You even get into historiography a little. So they almost mimic a major's task. And again, the students spend a long time learning discipline-specific terms and concepts, and then how can you apply that in your own writing? The extended essay is a great opportunity for that. And the best part is that these essays are independent. So they're usually year-long, some are semester-long, but students have control over the topic and they're able to follow their interests. And we've had a lot of students that use extended essays almost as passion projects, something that they were deeply interested in, and there just wasn't time in the curriculum. So that helps with the workload and really serves as a motivator for these students. So it's an amazing undertaking. And a lot of students are, it's daunting at first, and then they really talk about what a valuable experience it is at the end of the process.
Ms. Rice, families will often ask, particularly the students who are in science research and math research, if they can utilize the same topic, same research, same information. And what would you reply to those families?
So absolutely, math research and science research are tremendous undertakings. And we find a way for students to use that opportunity and incorporate it into the extended essay process. So the data that is collected for math and science research can be used. However, the research question or the writing around that data will be new. So there is room to incorporate their prior work, but the writing will be new.
Thank you. Okay, just a few final statements about IB, or a few final slides about IB. Obviously, there are benefits and challenges to IB, to AP, to dual enrollment. The benefits of IB are extensive, right? So it's interdisciplinary. Almost all the subjects tap into other subjects. So you're not just studying sociology. You're not just studying philosophy. You're not just studying business in isolation. You will look at things from other vantage points, other lenses from other subject areas. IB revises every course curriculum every 5 or 6 years. And so they're not changing history, they're not changing the facts, but they are changing their approach. And again, the approach is always global in nature, because we are not isolated here. More and more, we're an interconnected world. The learner profile dispositions are embedded in all the courses, and they match identically with our shared valued outcomes. We want creative thinkers, we want leaders, we want collaborators, right? And in IB, all of those things are accentuated. As Ms. Rice indicated, in addition to that extended essay that the diploma candidates must complete, every IB course has its own smaller research component. That's not true of the dual enrollment classes. That's not true of the AP classes. And so it is something that you can report. Well, first of all, it's a great learning experience. Second of all, it is something you're going to have to do at some point in college. Third, you can report it to colleges in your application that you've had these research experiences, and could even provide them with an abstract of the work that you've done. Authentic assessment that requires transfer and real world connection. IB doesn't use tests as much as some of the other subjects do, or their tests are slightly different format, I should say. They do use tests and assessments, but they are very rarely using multiple choice questions. They are asking you to explain your belief, state your facts, provide your argument. And so you always share what you know. You don't have to know a specific fact necessarily, or that the War of 1812 happened in 1812. You have to know more about it, and you get to explain that, and you get points on those tests for what you've explained, not what you've missed, basically. So it's a little bit of a different approach, at least to assessment and instruction. Some of the challenges with the IB program, we have a number of students who want to jump into college level courses before 11th grade. Right? And we have some students who are accelerated or double accelerated in math, and they're ready for the IB math in 10th grade. We have gotten special dispensation from IB to offer that course to those double accelerated math students, but they cannot take that test until they're in 11th grade, right? So you're delaying that exam component for a year. The coursework is time consuming, and the research components are time consuming. And many students cannot make the diploma work in their school schedule, or sometimes in their personal schedule. If they're a 3-season athlete or they're in the theater production, some students find they just can't manage it all. Space for 2-year courses and core requirements, CAS, extended essay, and TOK is challenging for those reasons I just mentioned. And for some families, some students in the transactional side of things, few colleges award credit for an SL course. They routinely offer credit for HL. They do not always for SL. So those are some of your challenges when it comes to the IB program. Dr. Zief, thank you. IB puts out this information. These are 10 solid reasons why you might want to pursue an IB diploma program. It can increase your academic opportunity even beyond high school. Students care more about the work sometimes than if they're being assessed just on multiple choice and on facts. You do have to be an independent learner. You have to create that independent research on your own in the class, and certainly for that extended essay. The curriculum is all about critical thinking. It is global or internationally minded. You have to manage your time well. If you're an IB diploma candidate, you just won't be able to get it done if you don't come up with a structure and plan and kind of foresee deadlines and due dates, because you need to squeeze stuff in. And there's a breadth and depth of learning, right? Now, I will say that many of those 10 reasons exist in AP courses and dual enrollment courses as well, but they certainly exist in the IB courses. So why would you be a diploma candidate? If you complete the entire diploma program, colleges will recognize that as the most rigorous pathway through school, because you've pulled from 6 varying subject areas, because you've done a year-long research project, because you've done research in every one of those 6 classes, because you've done community service. So when you complete the whole set, it demonstrates that you can handle the rigors of college. In fact, some of the semesters here where you're taking 6 classes, that's 1 more class than you take at most college semesters, right? So they know that you're ready for college level work. Statistically, about 50% of students graduate college, public universities, in 6 years. But when they look at the IB diploma candidates graduation rate, it's 79% in 4 years, right? So that's significant. Those students are prepared for the rigors of college. It is comprehensive and interdisciplinary. You have to help others, community service, you have to collaborate, you have to be active, you do independent research, and we like to say you don't see IB, you kind of think IB. It kind of shapes how you view so many things. To see what it really looks like in your schedule, the next slide is going to be critical, the next 2 slides. This is where you're going to see the actual logistical demands of the IB courses, right? So if your son or daughter decides to take IB language as an SL, as a standard level course, and in Mandarin, that's the only option you have, then you must take IB biology as your science for 2 years, right? And you'll look at grade 11 and 12. You need IB English for 2 years. You need IB history of the Americas, IB wars across 20th century. You need 1 year of IB math, and then most students will follow on to calculus of some sort. You need the half year of philosophy, theory of knowledge, and for the spring of junior year and the fall of senior year. You do get lunch unless you're in orchestra, band, or chorus, and then you don't get lunch. You would need to be in the IB biology class for 11th and 12th. There's a lab affiliated with it for 11th and 12th. And then when you're not in lab, you'd have to be in phys ed. And then you would need either a 1 year or a 2 year IB elective. And you saw on previous slides which ones are offered for 1 or which are offered for 2. If you were able to complete it with a 1 year elective, then in senior year, you could have a free period in addition to, you could have a lunch period in addition to orchestra or band or chorus. And then you have to do the extended essay and the community action service. If you were to take HL language, which is the next slide, then you have a little bit more flexibility. Chris, can we go back one slide, please? So if you're taking HL, and that's available in French, Italian, and Spanish, we have had some students do it in Latin. You'll take English for 2 years, social studies for 2 years, IB Math in 11th, calculus in 12th, theory of knowledge in 11th and 12th. You'll take your world language at the HL level, 11th and 12th. You'll get lunch, unless you're in the music program. You'll take IB Science, and it could either be the biology for 2 years or the environmental systems for 1 year. And then your second year would give you some freedom to take a different science if you wanted, or even have a free period, but you could move into physics or AP chemistry or forensics, things like that. You have your science lab both years, phys ed both years, and then you still need that 1 or 2 year elective plus the essay plus the CAS project. So you'll see that it eats up a lot of your schedule. So you just have to know that. And those are the two pathways to get the diploma here at North Shore.
Mr. Shea, can I just make one quick point? There was a question, and it speaks to what you're saying now about physics and why we moved away from IB Physics HL towards AP. And this really, I think, sets the context for that decision. First of all, enrollment was getting very low in that course. We'll always look at this every year. One thing we pledged when we spoke to the board about this in November, and put this initial presentation together was, we'll look at enrollment. We're listening to our students. But it was hard to do the IB program and still have physics. And we were also finding that the AP courses, and there are a few different AP options and different levels for AP physics, that was more relevant to what students were studying in college in terms of engineering and some of the careers that they were interested in. So in that case, in the sciences and maths, we felt AP was a better fit for our students. So we're, trying to leverage the best of both worlds, so to speak. In the sciences, I think we have more AP courses. In the humanities, there's more of a balance, but maybe more IB options in that, and the languages where we feel like those programs are a little stronger, or offer at least options where we have both more in the humanities. So that was the rationale for that. We'll always continue to look at that.
The beauty of having all three programs, and not every school offers that, right? But is you, the student, and the family, can customize your advanced programs to your strengths, your interests, your talents, right? You don't have to choose a particular pathway because we offer you three, and you can mix and match and put together quite a compelling transcript and have a wonderful learning experience here at North Shore, mixing and matching from the three advanced programs. We're a bit of a unicorn when you look around. Not every IB school offers AP classes. Most AP schools don't offer IB. 97% of the schools in the US don't offer IB, right? And then in addition to that, we have a bunch of our courses, which you're going to see shortly, where you could purchase credits at a supreme discount from specific universities, and then bring those credits with you to your college. Potentially, not every college takes them. This slide kind of shows you, some of the decision making doesn't have to get done right away. I mean, if you want the full diploma, you have to know that entering 11th grade, if you want the full IB diploma. But in 11th grade, you have two choices for English, either Regents or IB. So if you want that honors accelerated track, you're going to take IB. There is no AP option for you. So you're going to take IB there. In social studies, same thing. You're either going to take US History Regents, or you're going to take the IB History of the Americas. Those are your two options. You could add theory of knowledge as an elective if you wanted. In math, you either have Regents pre-calculus, Regents pre-calculus, or you have IB Math. So again, if you want those advanced and those honors opportunities, you're going to take the IB courses in 11th grade. In science, you do have a little more flexibility. You can take AP Physics, you can take AP Chemistry, you can take IB Environmental, or you can take AP Bio. But AP Bio happens to be the first year of the IB Bio 2-year curriculum, right? So some of those decisions are kind of pre-made for you. In 12th grade, it opens up a little bit. So if you don't pursue the full diploma, You could switch from IB language in 12th grade to AP literature. You could switch from IB history to AP government. There is no IB math in 12th grade, so it will be AP something. And then at 12th grade, again, you have those same freedom of choices in science. So that's what that slide is about. All right, so that wraps up the IB program and the two different pathways, a la carte versus diploma, right? College Board did not grow up in Switzerland. College Board grew up in New Jersey for the same reason that IB was created, to give high school students in America the opportunity to take college level courses while they're in high school, right? And truly, the only competitor, the College Board would be a monopoly if IB didn't exist, right? So those are the two college level, affirmed college level course selections that you can make in America, AP or IB. And many schools don't give you IB. We have 16 courses that come with that AP title. There is no AP diploma. So you only take AP courses a la carte. You take the ones that interest you. You take the ones that you're good at. You take the areas that you would like to learn a little bit more about, right? And you can start taking them at 9th or 10th grade, depending on the course, right? So world history, you can take in 10th grade. Psychology, you can take at 9th or 10th grade. Computer science, you could take in 10th grade. Many of these are 11th and 12th grade courses, but you can see that you can accumulate a bunch of AP courses even before 11th and 12th grade. And you'll see them in, again, if we were to break these out, it would be 6 primary subject areas, but you see the 16 course titles there. If you want to look at the benefits and challenges there, it is rigorous college level coursework. Colleges know that. Colleges are actually part of the curriculum creating process with AP. They work with College Board to say this is what you should teach. Students can take it earlier than 11th grade. Math and science courses, we have experienced the math and science courses to be a little bit better for our students if they're going into a career path with those courses. And there are some colleges that quite literally count the number of AP courses that you have on your transcript, and it's one of their direct data points that they use when they're evaluating your transcript. The challenges with AP, if you remember when you were in college and the professor said, here's this 500-page textbook. I'm not going to cover it all in class, but you need to cover it all because you don't know what's going to show up on the final. So it's a massive amount of information, concepts, and knowledge, much like those survey courses that you may have had in college. And we try to teach all those topics. And then AP puts out a test, and we don't know what's coming up on that test before that test is released. And the humanities courses are based on conceptual and factual knowledge acquisition and are less interdisciplinary. Your courses in AP are very specific to the subject that is the course title. You're not going to have that international perspective. You're not going to look at that content through multiple disciplinary lenses. So it's a different style of education. All of the AP tests, well, almost all of the AP tests do have a significant portion of their questions in multiple choice format, just so that you're aware. So those would be some of the challenges with AP. I'm going to hand the microphone to Mr. Dan Doherty for dual enrollment.
Thank you, Mr. Shea, for that thorough overview of all that you do. AB took the baton. Tim took the baton of the IB coordinator last year and done an amazing job the last couple of years. So thank you.
Thank you.
So dual enrollment is a little bit different from AP or IB. It encompasses college and high school programs, which are partnerships between school districts and institutions of higher education that allow high school students to enroll in college courses and earn transferable credit. So what that means is we take current North Shore courses, we partner with local universities such as Nassau Community, LIU, Stony Brook, Syracuse, and students can opt to pay for a college credit in the beginning of the year. There's an application they fill out. Typically, the deadline is sometime during the first semester. So usually it's by October 15th, November 1st, somewhere in there, and they have to pay a certain amount. You'll see that in a second, but it's a significantly discounted rate for that course. So these are all the North Shore courses that have the dual enrollment partnership. So the first category is the name of the course. So this is all listed in the course catalog. So if you look, pre-calculus has a partnership with SUNY Nassau. The corresponding college course at Nassau is Math 111 pre-calculus. The student can earn 4 credits. So all the students in pre-calculus have this option available to them. Not all the students in pre-calculus may opt to do this, right? So if there's 20 students in the class, 10 students may opt to fill out the application, pay the money to SUNY Nassau, and submit the required documentation through their counselor to go through that process. If you look at the partnerships that we have, it's mostly Nassau, Stony Brook, Syracuse, and then LIU was a new one over last year with our new college real estate and virtual enterprise course. I started at North Shore 6 years ago. At that time, we had partnerships with Molloy, St. John's, Adelphi, Stony Brook. One initiative that Dr. Dolan brought with him when he was our superintendent a couple of years ago was to try to streamline our dual enrollment offerings so that students could potentially earn more credits at SUNY schools. He had me do some research. We looked at where the majority of our students were going. 33% of our graduates are attending SUNY colleges. So we did shift and aligned with Stony Brook and SUNY Nassau more. They have a guaranteed transfer policy where any student who takes a dual enrollment course, should they go to any of the SUNY institutions or Nassau, those credits do transfer. So if you're a high school student that takes 5 dual enrollment courses, through SUNY, you're earning, 3 credits per course. That's a full semester's worth of credits for that student, which could save them, a significant amount of money. Go to the next slide, Dr. Z. So the money slide. This shows you, so for a SUNY Nassau course, the price per course, so that's not per credit, so that could be for 3 credits, is $160. Stony Brook, same thing. Typically, it's 3 credits per course, $300. Syracuse is a little bit more expensive at $460, and LA is at $280. If you research the average price of 3 credits at a college, it's roughly $2,500. So you're saving a significant amount of money. Now, if you're a student that doesn't go to a SUNY and you have a credit from Stony Brook, will that credit be accepted at a private school? Will Stony Brook credit be accepted at Syracuse? Will Syracuse credit be accepted at Stony Brook? It's up to the institution. So it could be yes, it could be no. Mr. Knight, were you going to chime in? Nope, sorry. I thought I saw it. Trying to say something. Okay.
I might have nodded.
Okay. So Dr. Z, we could go to the next slide. Okay, so the benefits of dual enrollment courses, as I talked about, the financial benefits are significant. You're getting these credits at a discounted rate. Often to earn the credit, there's a minimum grade requirement. It could be a B. For some schools, it could be a C. But essentially, you have to earn a certain grade in that course. Whereas for AP or IB, it's really contingent on how the student does on the exam. So most colleges will accept a 4 or a 5 on an AP exam. Some schools will accept a 3. Most colleges will accept a 6 or a 7 on an HL, IB exam. Some colleges will accept a 5. SL, as Mr. Shea mentioned, some colleges don't accept SL credit. The ones that do, you still need to earn a certain score. So if you're a student who may not test well, dual enrollment might be a great opportunity for you to earn some college credits in high school and not have to, worry so much about your AP or IB exam score. If you notice that, in the course titles, some of our AP or IB courses are also dual enrollment. So if you're a family that kind of wants to hedge your bets and you're not sure how the student's going to do on the AP or IB, you could certainly pay for those, for the dual enrollment credits in the beginning of the year, and then, still have an opportunity to do well on the AP or IB exam, but still maybe get the college credit in that course in a different way. The challenges, as I mentioned, that the credit may not transfer from institution to institution, and the dual enrollment courses may not carry the same impact. So being in a course like pre-calculus, that's not an honors course. It's not an AP or an IB course. So it's a little, colleges would like to see students in those AP or IB, but from a transactional standpoint, being able to get that college credit from SUNY Nassau and have that transfer to a SUNY or a different institution can certainly help. In terms of how we get our courses aligned, our academic directors, so the director of each department, partners with the institution. There's paperwork they have to fill out. There's also legwork that needs to be done by the teachers. So they do vet their resumes. We send our course syllabus. For our SUPA forensics, Mr. Casino had to go to Syracuse and do a training. So the professors do come and meet with our teachers and observe them. So there's another layer in terms of just being allowed to offer that as a dual enrollment course.
I just wanted to answer a couple of questions. Thank you, Mr. Doherty. One thing that you saw, and I went back to the slides, just there's a lot of overlap in terms of even some AP and IB courses that are also dual enrollment courses. So that was a lot of creativity on the part of the high school administration, the counseling staff, and the directors and teachers. So thank you. A couple of quick questions. Somebody asked about IB computer science, and that is group 4 that would fulfill the science requirement. It is SL, so you have to look at the SL-HL mix. I know the teachers who are about to present have answers to some of these other questions. But then one question, you could start the IB diploma and then you could abandon it in senior year without penalty. We, of course, encourage, as many students who started to finish it, but there would be no penalty per se.
Yeah, and another one, there was a question about, can a student take AP US history while in HOTA? Yes, they can. We have students that opt into taking the AP US exam in junior year.
So I think we'll move now, Mr. Shea, to our teachers' presentations. And thank you for being here. It's really a gift that you're here. So we're going to start with math and Ms. DeLuca, if you wanted to start, and then we're going to go through our 4 major content areas.
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Lauren DeLuca. I have taught both the IB applications and the IB analysis class. And I would say both of those courses have the goal of holistic learning, how we've kind of talked about in the previous slides. IB focuses on problem solving and more creative thinking than your typical AP class. And what's nice about these IB courses, whether you take the analysis or the applications, they have a very well-rounded curriculum. So the student can kind of get a sense as to whether they have more of a preference towards a statistics course or if they prefer a calculus course, rather than kind of going into it blindly. Because as you've heard, the math course is only a 1-year course, which is nice because then if a student decides to take IB in their junior year, they still have the opportunity to take an AP course in their senior year. And some options for senior courses are AP Calculus AB, AP Calculus BC, and then there's also Calculus R and AP Statistics. So there's a good variety of courses. I included some major topics that we study in both the analysis and the applications course, which is on the left side of the slide. Those are really the main 5 topics that we cover. And what you'll notice is some of those topics have been covered in students' courses prior to junior year. So they should have taken Algebra 2, Algebra 1, Geometry. So what the IB course does is it really makes students apply their knowledge in different settings where they may have not seen in the time-constricted Regents courses that they've worked with in the past. Statistics and calculus are the main topics that are new when a student enters their junior year. And the major difference between the analysis course and the applications course is the IB analysis course is more focused on calculus. And if students take the IB analysis course, they're the only students that have the opportunity to take BC calculus their senior year. In the applications course, we focus more heavily on statistics. We do cover the calculus as well, but not as far in depth. So that means for their senior year, they are going to be, if they want to go towards the calculus route, they're going to take AB calculus. But as I mentioned, either course gives opportunities to work with statistics and calculus. So when they're ready to make their decision for senior year, they have some backing behind that and can kind of relate to what they've worked with already at the start of junior year. Some other unique aspects that we've talked about a little bit is, as Mr. Shea said, the IB courses, at least in IB math, there's no multiple choice questions. Actually, the IB courses at the end of the year, they're going to range between 5 to 8 short answer questions per day. There's 2 days of testing, which means each of these short answer questions are kind of testing the student's ability to apply the knowledge and then connect it with the 5 topics of study. Which means they have more opportunities to, discover, investigate ideas, and challenge their thinking, whereas the Regents and the AP courses are more strict on their deadlines, and they have multiple choice questions that are going to focus specifically on standalone topics, where IB questions will kind of mix all the topics together and make sure students know how to apply their learning. And then to further make sure they apply their learning, as Ms. Rice talked about, students will partake in a math internal assessment. At this point of the school year, all of our students have selected a topic, and they're working to either create an experiment, a survey, or to collect their data. And they choose a topic that is personal to them, which is great because you can see students applying their knowledge, and it really shows a meaningful understanding of the math that they can use, which is a great preparation for college. And they learned how to write about the math rather than just rote solving for problems. And this is not a typical aspect in any of the other math courses that I've seen. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. DeLuca. And we're gonna now move to social studies, and Mr. Emmanuel Blanchard is here to speak about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zublionis, and greetings to everyone else who's on the call. Really quickly, I teach IB History of the Americas. I've done this for quite some time, ever since the inception of it here at North Shore Schools. I'm not going to spend too long on what AP US History is, because we have the course of IB History of the Americas. But if you wanted to compare and contrast what the two courses are, high schools struggle to replicate what the college history course experience is. I have a bunch of history majors on this call. It's a very different experience. And so both AP and IB, they do certain things well, but they struggle in certain areas because on the college level, this is not exactly what would take place. So for example, on the college level, you have a 14 to 16-week course that focuses on a singular topic or issue or event. So for example, you'll have a 14-week course on the Civil War. But because of our New York State standards, we have to cover more of a chronological full scope of US history. So that's one of the things we have to keep in mind. With respect to IB History of the Americas and how it differs from AP US, imagine if you were in the forest, that would be AP US. And if you were above the forest, that's IB History of the Americas. What IB History of the Americas offers is a more, as Mr. Shea mentioned before, a more global understanding of why things transpired in the United States. So for example, in an AP US history class or in a US Regents history course, if you're looking at the Mexican-American War, you're pretty much only looking at it from the perspective of the United States, which creates a level of blind spots that's, for the historian, that's kind of dangerous and very myopic. So what IB History of the Americas does is that it creates more of a rounded perspective. So looking at the Mexican-American War, not just from the US perspective, but also looking at it from the Mexican perspective. Looking at American isolationism and then eventual involvement in World War I, not just from the US perspective, but what was happening in Mexico at the time that could have altered US participation in World War I. So that's that particular slide. Dr. Z. Both courses, and I'm not really going to stress too much AP US because that's not the course that we offer in the high school that much anymore. But some of the strengths is that, as Mr. Shea mentioned before, it is something that is it's seamlessly integrated into many US colleges. It's a name brand that everyone is familiar with. It has a clear support structure that's available online. But there are some aspects of AP US history that do leave some things to be desired. So, for example, the relentless pace of AP US can be an issue at times. There's a lot of rote memorization. It's a very US centric understanding of history, which can leave layering blind spots in terms of understanding certain historical topics or concepts. And there's a very heavy load in terms of independent reading. Now, with regards to IB History of the Americas, it also has some amazing qualities to it, and which is why I love teaching the course, Dr. Z. And one of the strengths of History of the Americas is that it is very heavy in terms of research. All of the students who enter into History of the Americas ends up with a research project of their own choosing and design. They are guided, they're supported throughout the research process, and it allows them to get a deeper understanding of what historians actually do. What is the work of a historian? What is historiography? How do you delve into multiple arguments and really support an analysis of sources? Some of the challenges with regards to History of the Americas is that it does move slowly because you are asking students to do something that they're not typically be used to, like seeing things from multiple perspectives at the same time on the local level as well as the international level. It also creates it just moves slower, and then it also creates this idea of having to teach research. So one of those things that I do and Mr. Rodahan we have to do is we actually have to teach historical research skills. It is a special set of skills that it does take time for students to embrace it and to be challenged by it, but it becomes a worthwhile process because one of the things that we're starting to see is that a number of students, when they are applying to colleges, use their historical investigations as a sample of written assessed work that they can apply and give to colleges as a sample of their work. Oh, one more thing. So someone asked the question with regards to taking the APUSH exam as a HOTA student. Yes, by all means, you are permitted to take the APUSH exam. One of the common misconceptions, though, is that APUSH and HOTA are exactly the same course. They are not. So a student who attempts to take the APUSH exam will have material that they will have to cover on their own because there are certain names, certain dates that simply because of the calendar, there's not enough time to cover every single thing that's part of the APUSH curriculum and everything that's part of the IB curriculum. So because this particular course is an IB course, a student who hypothetically takes APUSH would have to do some independent review.
Thank you, Mr. Blanchard.
My pleasure.
One thing we've talked about is with the APUSH test and maybe others, we might create, special opportunities for review if we have a high demand for that, extra review sessions like we do for Regents exams and others. So we're going to move to Mr. Knight. And I'm going to unmute Mr. Knight. I think there he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. As Mr. Blanchard's talking, I start to think about the differences between the courses more specifically, but I will limit what I'm talking to today to what I've presented on these slides. The biggest differences is that IB Language and Literature is a 2-year course, and AP Language and AP Literature are 2 1-year courses. Yeah, I'll let you read the slides. But there's curriculum differences, there's assessment differences, but the biggest difference, I think, and this speaks to what Mr. Blanchard was saying about the difference between AP US and IB HOTA Year 1, is IB's definition of language. At the IB level, language has to do with visual text, whereas, yeah, that's the one. Whereas at the AP level, language is, argument, rhetoric, memoir, speeches, historical documents, prose, nonfiction. It's a very different frame. And that's why the 11th grade course probably doesn't align with the IB assessment because of the definition of language. And I don't think I have more to present than what's on the slide here. Obviously, at the AP level, there are a couple of high stakes tests in May in junior year and senior year, whereas the IB assessments are more formative. There's an oral component, there's a written component. I don't want to call it research because it's not exactly research, but is a 1,200 to 15 word MLA formatted essay about one of the bodies of work that we've studied in class. As I think about it, Dr. Z talked about overlap. There's far more similarities than there are differences. And I think I keep coming back to IB's definition of language and how it's more visual than AP's definition of language. There's no multiple choice component to the IB assessment, which makes close reading at the AP level more something that you have to focus on more from an instructional standpoint. And I don't think I have much more than that.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. I'm sorry the slides I was a little out of order there.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Clearly, I need some remediation here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
We are going to move to science, and Miss Baccioni, I'm going to unmute you. Thank you for being here.
Sorry, I lost my mouse there for a second. I'm going to click unmute. Hi, everyone. So yeah, speaking on science, personally for me, I taught IB environmental science as well as AP environmental science, which were both two awesome and great classes. So overall environmental science, whether you're IP or you're IB or AP, you're looking at the world and current issues that are going on. So I think it's something that's so amazing because kids get to come in every day and they get a fresh new lens. So you're never really getting the same lesson year to year because you're looking at the curriculum through the lens of the real world, what's going on. So, in a matter of seconds, you could get a headline on an email and the lessons could change, which is really interesting about it. I also think that it's a nice course because it allows for students who are science-minded and have that thinking in a way of formatted and like to go in order and structurally, and then also allows for kids who want to think more creatively. So it's a science that opens things up for many kids who think in different ways, which is something that I've always loved about it. So whether you're AP or IB, now looking at the two of them, comparison, you can see that there are a lot of similar topics that are talked about, whether it's ecosystems or biodiversity or whatever that might be. But when you do compare them side by side, you have IB on the left-hand side, and then you have AP on the right-hand side. The kind of overarching theme that I've always gathered when I've compared them in my own head and from teaching them in the past is that when you're looking at the IB course and curriculum, you're really more looking at the global thinking, which is tied to debates and tied to open-ended questions about science. You're asking yourself about how does what I'm learning right now within the four walls of this classroom relate to the societies and the aspects that are going on in the real world. Whereas when you're looking more at the AP course, it was more so about conducting methodical procedures and looking at life and looking at the science from the scientific point of view. So more so about what are those details that you need to know and need to be tested upon. So a lot of the words you see often associated with the IB courses or topics on the left-hand side are things like societies and systems. So bringing in that real world aspect and looking at how it relates to the people around you. And then overall, because we do now offer only IB Environmental Science at North Shore, we do not offer AP Environmental Science. It is once again a course that allows you to merge creativity with science, which is really amazing and really awesome about it. It also encourages students to take on multiple perspectives. So it allows for an 11th grade or 12th grade student to start thinking about topics beyond their own world, right? So beyond just the way that they would perceive things that are happening to them. It asks them to debate topics and sometimes pick sides of an argument that they might not necessarily agree with, which I think is always something that is good to do because it teaches you to be open-minded to think about everything. So you pose a lot of moral dilemmas, you challenge yourself in your own norms, and a lot of times also you look at things that are happening in your own world. So for example, in the past I had lessons where students had to make decisions and conduct environmental impact assessments on projects that were happening in Port Washington and in their own neighborhood. So a project that would go on where they were creating or posing to create a apartment complex that was across the beach from Tappan Beach. Those kids were put in the position of saying, hey, this is something that's happening in my life and it applies to the stuff that I'm learning, and how can I apply what I'm learning to those decisions and those hard decisions. So it was really amazing from that perspective. Also looking at the format of the assessments. So like everybody else has been saying, when it comes to IB, you have the paper 1 and you have paper 2. So it's a 2-day assessment. Paper 1 is a case study. So it is simply structured around all of the similar topics and same topics and concepts from one actual case study that's happening. So it is all real world. Whereas the next day you have a lot of short answer questions and essay style questions that are about different topics within the curriculum. And then lastly, you do have that internal and individual investigation where Mrs. Rice was talking about that earlier. That's an opportunity for the students to pick something, a research question that they feel passionate about. I always called it the most chaotic 2 weeks of time when they would collect the data, and the best 2 weeks of time, because you would see kids start to flourish and start to look at things that they might not have looked at before and take ownership over their work, which was really amazing. So you have students who try to do hands-on laboratory investigation when it comes to, using the wet lab and field studies. Then you also have kids who want to look at topics that they can't collect data on, like how does, different chemicals in sunscreens in Hawaii affect the coral reefs and the animals that live there. So really amazing things that can happen based on databases and spreadsheet analyses as well. And speaking about the credit, so when it is IB Environmental Science, because it is that SL, that 1 year, it's difficult to get the college credit that a lot of kids I know do desire and do want for that. There are sometimes, like when you reach out to different colleges like Albany or Syracuse or things like that, they might have certain exceptions for that. So right now there is no offering for dual enrollment when it comes to IB Environmental Science. So it would be on a school-to-school basis for whether or not they would accept the credit of that SL class, being that it is a 1 year. When it comes to sciences, though, in general, there are other classes that a student could take if credit was their main focus. They could take IB and IB biology, year 1 and year 2, AP biology as well, and that would definitely give them that credit in college if that's what their focus is.
Thank you, Ms. Baccioni. That's great. I just have to say, how amazing you can hear, Ms. Jamari, Ms. Rice, Mr. Blanchard, Mr. Knight, Ms. Baccioni, Mr. Luca, like the quality of how they're just even talking about what they do in a very short window. Thank you. It was hard to do that in a short amount of time with a couple slides. Just the quality of what you can imagine your children are receiving in their classrooms. So thank you. Mr. Contreras. Sorry.
Yes, hi. I concur. I actually saw Ms. Baccioni's IB class when they were doing the unit on harbor studies and how they were able to connect the environmental science piece in very concrete and scientific ways with the policy decisions with something very local was very impressive. And I think that having seen both the AP Environmental Science and the IB Environmental Science, I think they're both great options. But I think what we've done over the years, like with physics or with environmental sciences, like which one speaks most specifically to the SVOs, kind of our mission as a school, and certainly IB Environmental Science gets to very local science-based issues with real policy intersections. To answer the IB question regarding the dual enrollment, so just to clarify, many courses that are AP or IB, we've added a layer of dual enrollment. So you can kind of like be in the IB class or the AP class and get credit through the examination via those courses. But if it's also a dual enrolled class, you can also get credit if you're going to SUNY through that option. So we had one with SUNY Albany. They canceled it because of their internal requirements. We've been looking to see if we can reestablish it with like a SUNY Old Westbury, and it's a conversation I will continue to pursue with Mr. Steve Minshall. But just know that I was looking every college, if you do a search for like IB transfer credit or AP transfer credit. So I'm going to link right now the Geneseo. And just to clarify, I'm actually very proud Binghamton alum, but Geneseo likes to say that they are above Binghamton. So I'm using them as an example. When you go to Geneseo's website and you do a drop down for IB Environmental Science, they actually give you credits for one of their college classes. So like it's all highly dependent on the college. You have to score above a 4 out of those 7. But if you took that class here at North Shore, separate from dual enrollment, and scored a 4 out of the 7, you would get credit via that link that I just posted. I also want to quickly add that while it's really an important metric to see how many students are diploma candidates every year, and our range has been from 4 to 15, like in the history of IB. The one thing that's a consistent pattern, at least the last 4 years, is that there is a yearly increase in the number of exams. So 2 years ago, there were 309 IB exams. We are anticipating 369 IB exams this May. 2 years ago, there were 554 AP exams. We anticipate 709 AP exams this year. So while the full diploma candidate piece is a really important metric, I think it also, the other piece is our students are taking more AP courses and more IB courses over the last year, consistently increasing every year. And before I forget, last year, we went to see presentations for IB students at the end of the year, and it was Dr. Z. We had Mr. Shea there. And just to give you kind of the specificity of some of the presentations for the IB full diploma candidates, one of them was an investigation into U.S. policy during the space race following the success of the Soviet Union. The question is what extent that the public reaction to the Soviet space technologies drive American policy from 1957 to 1959. Just note the specificity of that research. It's deep. It's very academic. Here's another one, ComSci. So machine learning and an analysis of the Global Hunger Index. Can machine learning help find relationships between variables that would lead to a possible solution to global hunger? That's a computer science topic. Very specific, very deep, very academic. And I'll do one more. There's more of these, but like determining the strength of the gravitational force between the binary star system Sirius and Sirius B, right? The relationship between the MAOA gene and human behavior. MAOA gene is an enzyme that gets in the way of neurotransmitters. So these students, and I won't go through all of them, but they presented these like I remember talking to Chris and saying these were like dissertations by high school kids. So, and that's an aspect that the IB full diploma candidate engages in, right? But you don't have to do that, right? So I think that it's what a student wishes to do, because those are deep dives into very specific research topics, and IB gives you the form for that. Or you can do like other students are doing and taking AB and IB a la carte, and that's also deeply valuable. So I think it's not better. It's just, what do you want your journey to be as you take AP or IB? And yes, I agree. I think that hearing from the teachers kind of gives you another indicator of the depth of the experience across these courses. Thank you, Dr. Z.
Thank you, Mr. Contreras and Mr. Contreras, Mr. Shea, Mr. Doherty, Dr. Smythe, our esteemed faculty. I really appreciate everybody being here. And I think, Mr. Contreras kind of hit on it, but having these different pathways, I think that's what makes us in part, allowing students to choose. And even on the transactional level, it has seemed to work for our students, for students who might not be in the top 10 if we had class rankings like that, to be very transactional about it. Having the diploma might have helped them in terms of getting into a school. So it is all about the fit. And we provide different options. At the same time, we try to not have repetition in terms of the AP offerings and the IB offerings, to use that as an opportunity to have an array of different topics of courses as well. IB offers some courses that AP doesn't, and vice versa. And the same with dual enrollment. We're going to just look at the chat to make sure that there aren't any other questions, but I want to thank everybody for being here. We had over 120 parents on the Zoom, which is amazing. And we had this robust group of educators. One question about, this is a great question about, the parent of an 8th grader, rising freshman starting next year. How can we best prepare them for these opportunities in junior and senior year?
Yeah, we have our 8th grade parent night tomorrow night, and that's a big part of the conversation. It's kind of what you should be looking forward to. The directors tomorrow night at that meeting will talk through the difference, similar to how our teachers did tonight, the difference between honors and Regents courses. But if your student is a high performing student and doing well, the honors courses kind of feed into the AP courses. We have Mr. Blanchard here can talk about the global curriculum, but it is a 2-year commitment. So if you go into, I'm not asking you to, Emmanuel, but it's a 2-year commitment. If you go into global history 1, it feeds into AP world history, and then that feeds into IB HOTA. So I would kind of start there in terms of hopefully coming tomorrow night, hearing from the directors. And then the counselors are amazing and can certainly advise you in terms of Mr. Jackson. And then when you get to high school, your high school counselor in terms of your pathway forward.
Can I piggyback on that a little bit? Real quick though, that's one of the potential benefits of IB not allowing you into 11th grade. You have 9th and 10th grade to develop those skills of independence, the autonomy, the ability to do research, to sample an honors class or an AP class before you're like, oh, let me hit it really hard, right? But you have 2 years to grow before you jump into some of those college level classes, if that's what your goal is. So everybody develops at a different pace. Everybody comes into their own at a different pace. And it's okay to get there 11th grade. There is no prerequisite to IB English in 11th grade. There is no prerequisite to IB history in 11th grade. There are some skills you want to acquire. There are some habits you want to develop. But there are no barriers to entry. That's another thing I think that makes North Shore truly unique. My district, which I won't say because it's being recorded and they could see it, but the district I live in, there's metrics. You have to get a certain score on a Regents exam. You have to complete an honors class before you can get into some of their advanced courses. We give you the freedom to develop at your pace and jump in when you want. And I think that's fantastic. And you don't find that everywhere. I think that's pretty cool about North Shore.
I think it honors our late bloomers, or students who come of age a little later, maybe at age 15 or 16 and aren't, on the honors track, quote unquote, in middle school. But it also, it does require more internal accountability. If you're taking on that challenge, then, you have to kind of reflect on yourself and make sure to keep up with that. So, thank you, Mr. Shea. I just wanted to add, the course catalog that Mr. Doherty and Mr. Contreras, the high school team, and the whole faculty and directors put together is an amazing document to help answer that question. I'm going to send out a follow-up email, get some input on that from the team, and I'm just going to put a link to that. It's a simple Google Doc, like 100 pages, but it shows the pathways. There's a lot of time and attention put into that document, shows the pathways and all the electives for each department. And it's really great. And I'll show you the most up-to-date offerings that we have. So I want to thank everybody for being here, our faculty for being here late, our parents for being here. And we'll send out this recording and the presentation and post it certainly, so you guys have it if you want to revisit anything. And the benefit of living in a small school district, I always say, is, you know, you can write me an email, Dr. Smythe, Mr. Contreras, Mr. Doherty, Mr. Shea, about any questions here, and, you know, you'll get a response, you know, in a pretty timely way. And we love talking about this stuff. So, you know, please feel free to reach out to us as you get into it. You might not think of all those questions until you start planning, have that first meeting with your counselor. And certainly those questions will change as you move from sophomore to junior year to senior year. So we're here for that. And that's a big benefit of being at North Shore. So thank you all, and have a great evening, everyone.
Take care.